we have been looking at David Harvey's classification of different types of theories, and we are looking at his what he calls a revolutionary theory. And we had stopped here last time here. So we start from here. Revolutionary theory offers real choices. So that's one of the distinguishing characteristics of the revolutionary theory, as opposed to, for example, counter-revolutionary theory that is not idealistic. It offers revolutionaries real choices for future moments and in the present. In the social process by identifying, now that's very important, imminent choices, like choices present within the status quo. Within the status quo. Imminent choices in the existing situation. Okay, he says himself. Okay, this is very important. So let us look at this, because in general theory, in general revolutionary theory, and that's me speaking, revolutionary theory has two choices as far as it is a revolutionary theory. Two choices, or two ways, or two possibilities. There has been historically two types of revolutionary theories. In this respect, in the respect we are going to talk about in a moment. So there is status quo, is the existing dominant system, and the purpose of revolutionary theory is to totally transform that system and build a totally new system. That's what you call revolution, depending on how, it can be on individual level, social level, state level, and the real revolution, I would say, is on all three levels. That would be a civilizational revolution. Anyway, that doesn't matter for the moment, but as far as the change is concerned, there can be two ways, at least two ways, or two approaches to change, transformation, or revolutionary change. So you have existing system. One way is to come from outside. The system, or its dominance anyway. A bit like what Mao Zedong did in the Chinese Revolution. So the revolutionary theories and practice comes from outside the existing system. I mean, they were inside, but they went outside, they prepared. And then they came prepared and they attacked the existing system and they overwhelmed it from outside. And they deconstructed the they overcome the system, they deconstructed it, and they constructed a new system instead. So that's one way to do it. You come from outside, you prepare from outside, you build whatever you build from outside. So you build institutions, maybe nascent institutions. You build an individual, you build a society or communes or relationships. You build a sort of a proto-state outside, and that those individuals, that society, that states comes from outside and overwhelms the existing system and put those individual, those nascent social institution, nascent state institution instead of those overwhelm existing institutions and systems, etc. So that's one way. This is one way, and this is not the imminent method. This is not the imminent method. This can be called, I don't know, transcendent method maybe. Or more or less tendentiously, it can be called external method or external strategy. Imminent method, on the other hand, is you don't go outside. There can be many reasons you don't go outside, because one reason can be that the system is so overwhelming, there's no outside actually. Like the capitalist system today, there's no outside really. I mean, there might be some places where it is weaker than others, but there's no real outside. So that hegemony is overwhelming, the hegemony of the capitalism or capital non-civilization. So that's why external method is of no use here. The only method you have is immanent method. So what is the immanent method? Immanent method, and how I would define immanent method, is different from Harvey's, but that will help us to understand different types of immanence. And we'll be able to evaluate probably his immanent method better. So immanent method is that you work within the status quo. So revolutionary theory work within immanent method, because even though the system is dominant, there can be points where it's weak. So what you do is you look for possibilities, real choice, where you can make difference, in the sense that you are able to take action which will result in what can lead to the weakening of the dominance of the existing system, for example. So within system you try to build new thought systems, new theory, using the building blocks available to you from within the dominant system, obviously, but with the intention and the way that they are going to weaken the existing system and eventually overwhelm, a new system, overwhelm it with a new system. So you build a new individual, for example, an education system, a nascent education system within and alongside the dominant system. You build new justice system, for example, within. So for example, so you build new social institutions, like in villages, for example, people have a parallel justice system, police system, which doesn't deal with the existing police system or justice system. And this is obviously all at social level, because you don't have, so people voluntarily comes to this new justice system, new ways of resolving their issues. So you short circuit the process. So you are not fighting with the existing police or justice system. You have made these small institutions which are able to solve people problems better than the existing system, and without involving a lot of resources and money and all those. A lot of it is obviously on voluntary basis, and this can only happen when the existing system is weak or based on wrong principles, or people don't like it for whatever reason, and you provide people more reason for that. But the difference between a revolutionary and idealist is that revolutionary builds parallel systems, alternative systems. So it's not just the alternatives which you are promising in the future, but you're building those alternatives right now here and connecting them to the larger struggle. So one day when the existing system, so as these nascent system will grow, the authority of the existing system would be reducing. And if it happens on systematic level and various stages, then those nascent institutions would overwhelm the existing institution. And people mostly relate or attribute revolution to events, but actual revolution happens over years and decades and centuries, where these small institutions are built. It's for institution at social level. It's which start working parallel to the existing institution and eventually become stronger than existing institutions. Similarly, you build your power bases, you build your fighter class if that is needed, just at the very small level within the obviously the existing legal framework and all those things. So those are real choices. Or you build a financial system which doesn't deal with the existing banks and things. So you have your own way of financing. So you start very small. So, and you are able to attract some people from banks. They stop dealing with banks and financial system and start dealing with these small institutions. And as those institutions, become stronger and stronger, the banks and those dominant institutions will become weaker and weaker. And your institutions are based on totally different principles. Similarly, instead of going to school, you build, establish tuition centers, for example. So yeah, you have to read practical examples of that. People are doing this always, and some people build alternative institution without actually any revolutionary intentions, just for social causes or for reform, for example. And one of the weaknesses of um, Harvey's David Harvey's classification or his description of revolutionary theory is that it doesn't really distinguish between imminent choices, similar sort of imminent choices, which can be reformist and revolutionary. You could be doing similar sort of things, but one can be reformist, the other revolutionary. So the difference is that revolutionary relates those institutional reforms, etc., with its overall revolutionary work, and with overall revolutionary strategy of first overwhelming the existing institution and then destroying them and replacing them with these existing institutions and building a new state and eventually new justice system and new police and new bureaucracy and new um, financial systems, etc., etc. So that's these are two broad methods. One is external, and the other is imminent. And as I said, imminent can be reformist as well as revolutionary. So let's go back. So revolutionary theory offers real choices for future moments, like for example, building, an alternative justice system, an alternative financial system for future moments, in the present, future, in the social process, by identifying imminent choices within the existing in an existing situation. The implementation of these choices, like implementation of building new institutions, for example, tuition centers or uh, informal justice system or alternative financial system. So these should serve to validate the theory, revolutionary theory, in the sense that if these are successful, in the sense that they are actually attracting people away from the existing institution, fulfilling their needs or changing their needs, and also connecting those institutions within the overall struggle of weakening the existing system and overwhelming it with the existing nascent institutions, then that validate that theory. You know that the theory is working all right, and to provide grounds for the formulation of new theory grounds. So you revising your theory always according to these practical um, social engineering work. So revolutionary theory has this reciprocal relationship with this actual work, actual revolutionary work. You are always revising your theory according to your actual intervention and also improving your intervention according to new revised theories. So a revolutionary theory consequently holds out the prospect for creating truth, that is, creating new institutions, weakening the existing institutions, and holding out or making the prospect of a new society actually realistic by all this. So it's not just not finding it. So this theory doesn't just describe a new reality, but actually construct a new reality within the existing reality. And it doesn't just claim or project or uh, predict the deconstruction of the existing institution, but it actually engineer their deconstruction in real time. So a revolutionary theory consequently holds out the prospect for creating truth rather than finding it. And if the revolutionary theory is completely successful, then it creates a new society or new civilization, new state, etc., and totally overwhelming the existing system, etc. So that's the sense of creating truth, not just finding it. So I think we have covered most of it. As I said, the one thing which he hasn't mentioned, maybe he'll mention later, that this revolutionary theory, the way he's describing imminent choices, they can be actually differentiated into reformists, which is actually has no intention of actually destroying the existing system. It's just trying to improve. And in fact, a lot of what actual work of Harvey is that of that sort, even though his rhetoric is always about revolution and things like that. But we'll see. Okay, let's stop.